I talked to the Henry twins about, we were having some discussions about their union, and in my last video, is the one about, I don't know which one of them was, I think it's Jaybird, had stole a urinal out of Ray Bob's bedroom, and he thought it was a koozie cup, and he was drinking out of it. In that video, he and I had an exchange where I told him that he didn't have no union. So that video hadn't been released for an hour yet, I don't think, and I got a call. Got a call from Dog Moon. And Dog says, "What are you doing telling my guys that they don't have a union?" "We do have a union." I said, "Well, Dog, we never come to no agreement, with me anyway, about your union. You can't get the guys to show up when I want them to. And I haven't been able to come to terms with what we're going to do and what I'm going to do and what you're going to do, and you haven't been able to deliver on what you're going to do. So to me, I don't have no agreement with your union." And he said, "You don't have an agreement yet with their union, but don't tell them they don't have a union, because they do." He said, "I've got 22 of them now signed up and paying $2 a month for their union. We even got the union. We got logos, and the union's got a name. It's Studio Audience Actors Guild. That's the name of it. Studio Audience Actors Guild, SAAG. They call the union SAG. It's SAG number 1, I think, or what do they call that? Your local, that's what they call it. SAG local number 1, SAAG local number 1. That's their union. But we don't have any kind of agreement with them. They haven't got any kind of agreement with anybody. I'm the only one that hires any of them for work. But anyway, Dog got all upset. He wanted me to tell them, and so not tell them that they didn't have a union, because then they come back to him complaining that they thought they had a union, and I told them they didn't have a union. One of the things that I got done the other day, and this is something that don't happen very often, not even related to reunion, I got a picture of the twins. They allowed me to take some pictures of them, and so I've got a few pictures of them, and I'm going to put a picture of them in this video just so you can see. In fact, it'll probably be up there while I'm talking, and you'll be able to see what I mean. You can't tell them apart. They don't even like to look at pictures of themselves, because looking at the picture, they can't tell who's who either. In fact, one of them was, he was telling me, he says, "It ain't hard to tell us apart if it's real life." I said, "What do you mean real life?" He says, "I'm there and he's there." He said, "Whenever it's us, and it don't matter who else is around, if I'm there and he's there, I can tell us apart easy." He said, "I know I'm me, so that one has to be him." I said, "Yeah, I can see what you mean about that. You know what your name is, so he's the other one. That's how you do it. But if you're looking at him in a picture," he said, "Yeah, in a picture it's different." Because he said, "I can't be there and know that that one's me, or I'm me. So I don't know which one's him. So if I don't know which one's him, I don't know which one's me." So I don't like to see pictures of us, so we don't get our pictures taken very often. So anyway, I talked him into letting me take a picture of them, and you're going to see a picture of the Henry twins, Jaybird and Ray Bob, the Henry twins. When I get, if I do, an agreement with their union, I'll have to pay extra, they told me, to put their pictures in the videos. So today I'm getting a freebie. I'm going to show you the pictures of Jay Bird and Ray Bob Henry. They showed up. I had a little chat with them, and they said some interesting things, and I think I'll talk a little bit about that today. In trying to keep with my format that I already am trying to develop. I'm going to combine some things. I'm going to talk about them, even though there's no one here today but me. I'm going to talk about them and maybe some of the other pool hall guys. I think while we're doing that, I'll put some random thoughts in, and I probably have some random thoughts in the latter part of the thing too. Here's a fly, and I sit here for 20 minutes trying to kill him, and he never would land. As soon as I get a hold of this fly swatter, he either gets up here around my ear or goes somewhere else. Random thoughts. I'm going to mix some random thoughts into what we're doing, and maybe a life lesson or two. And then I'm going to finish up, if things go like they're planned, talking about my neighbor's yard sale that went on last week. So I think I'll just get on with it. I was sitting here the other day watching YouTube video on that big screen TV over there, and I was watching a friend of mine. I don't know that it matters, but her name's Misty, and she is best description I can make of her is in the video realm of things that I'm associated with, or the things that I would look at and pay any attention to. She is a rock star. She started doing videos for her reasons and doing them her way, and because of her association with some other people that had done videos and some of the people that she watched, so she started doing it too. And she talked to me about it, and I decided after I watched a couple of hers, heck, I could do that. And I think I told you about this in some of my early videos. I started out watching her videos, and the Crazy Lamp Lady and a few others like them. Some of them are now friends of hers. And I noticed that they were cheery and chirpy, and always had what I call the cheerleader smile, and so and they were all successful. So I thought, well, I'll do that. That's how I'll do my videos. And I spent about a year trying to do that. I couldn't do it. I'm not cheery most of the time, and it's real hard for me to be chirpy. And another thing that they do is they twinkle. You know, they're just sitting there and they just twinkle. That people just ooh and ah and love them, and I can't twinkle. Although out of being cheery and chirpy and twinkle, every once in a while I do twinkle accidentally, but I can't make it happen. And if you watch my videos, you'd be hard pressed to pick out a twinkle. You'd have to watch 3 or 4 of them real close to see the twinkle once in a while. It usually happens right here in the corner of my eyes, but never mind all that. I was watching Misty, and her channel is called Thrifter Junker Vintage Hunter, and the twins, they wanted to watch too, so I said, well, have a seat. Well, they sat down, one on either side of me over on that couch, and I had to get up and move into a chair behind them. I don't think either one of them had a bath for several days. But anyway, we was watching the video, and one of the things that happened in the video, Misty was talking about what she was going to do and rearranging, explaining what her video was going to be about and what she was going to do, and she was going around the room, and then she told the audience that I'm kind of like a ping pong ball. I just go ping pong, you know that about me. And after the video was over, the boys was talking about her, and they said, you know that thing she said about the ping pong ball? I said, no, I couldn't remember what she said, but then when he described it to me, I said, yeah, I remember saying that. He said, you know what thought come to me? And I said, I'd be afraid to even venture what thought come to you. What was it? He said, spit in a skillet. And I thought about it for a minute. That was a phrase that I'd heard several times in my lifetime, a pretty common phrase when I was a young boy. And I thought, spit in a skillet. And what she was talking about was spit in a skillet. It's kind of the same thing, a ping pong ball bouncing around, or take a hot skillet and spit in it, and that spit goes bing, 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 bing before it finally dissipates into evaporated air. Spit in a skillet. So I said, yeah, that is kind of what she said, but I said she's not old enough to have heard people say spit in a skillet, and if you said spit in a skillet nowadays, nobody know what she's talking about. So we had a little conversation about spit in a skillet, and I told them boys, I said, I never saw my mom spit in a skillet, but I've seen her many times dip her fingers down in some water and flick it at that skillet and watch it. Them water droplets ricochet around until they's gone. And one of the twins said, yeah, his grandmother did the same thing. And then they got in a long discussion about did people really spit in the skillet, and they decided, yeah, they did. But it didn't make no difference, because if the skillet wasn't hot enough to make the spit do what it's supposed to, they put it on the heater and sterilized that spit out of it. If it was hot enough, then it was hot enough to sterilize it to start with, so there wasn't no harm in spitting in the skillet, what they come up with, although it's something I know we don't like to think about. And before I go on from that, I'm going to talk just a little bit about why will you be spitting in a skillet anyway? And you know, today we got all manner of ways to cook things. We got microwaves, we got toaster ovens, we got charcoal grills, we got electric stoves and gas stoves and stoves that do this and stoves that do that, and every kind of a utensil that you can think of, diamond coated, copper coated, Teflon coated, it don't matter. There's just a jillion ways to do things. Most of them is button pushing things. But in the old days, they had a saucepan and they had a cast iron skillet or a cast iron Dutch oven. That's what they had to cook in. And you can't just put something in a skillet, a cast iron skillet, and just put it on the stove and put something in it, go off and leave it. That ain't how you cook in a cast iron skillet. First thing you got to do is have that skillet hot like it's supposed to be for whatever it is you're thinking about cooking. If it's meat, you want it to be a certain way so you can sear that meat and hold the juices in. If it's something else, it's got to be some other way. You don't want to stick the gravy to it. So that was the way to test, is this skillet the temperature I want it to be? You knew by the reaction of them droplets of water that you put in them skillet how hot that skillet was, whether it needed to cool off or be heated a little bit more. So, Misty bounced around like a ping pong ball. In the old days, you zapped around like spit in a skillet. Same concept of what we were talking about. But from that, the twins, they started bringing up other stuff, other old sayings that you don't hear anymore. And the next one they come up with was, I think it was grinning. Yeah, that's what it was. Grinning like a dead pig in the sunshine. And I don't know how many of you heard that before, but I'd heard that many times too. My dad loved to say that. And what caused them to say it was when I turned the videos off on the TV, it just went off onto one of them other channels, CNN or MSNBC or Fox News, one of them news channels. And we wasn't paying no attention to it, but directly here comes Joe Biden on there. And they said, wait, there's Joe, let's see what he's going to say. And turns out he was introducing his vice presidential candidate, Kamala Harris. and he was up there talking, and she was back there behind him in a chair, and that's what prompted them to say what they said. They said, "Look at her. She's sitting back there grinning like a dead pig in the sunshine." And I looked over there, and sure enough, she was. she had this big old grin on her face. She couldn't get it off of there. And so then we had a discussion about grinning like a dead pig in the sunshine and what that might mean. And I had a little trouble with that as a kid myself, but over years, I began to see what my dad was talking about. A lot of times when there'd be a dead pig laying out there in the sunshine, and I never did see that many dead pigs, but I seen dead possums, and one time I seen a goat laying in the road, got hit by a car, and after they laid there in the sunshine a while, the heat started working on them. They started swelling, and their lips started drawing back, and you could see their teeth sticking out the side there, and they just looked like dead there in the sunshine, like they was grinning. And that's where that saying come from. And they'd heard it before, and they seen Kamala or whatever her name is. They seen her doing that, and they couldn't help herself. They said she's grinning like a dead pig in the sunshine, and by golly, she was. And we went on from there to I can't even go there now. Had to do with you and the mule you rode in on. They want to talk about that. I said, guys, I can't repeat something like that on a video. And they said, well, they thought if I was going to make a video of this stuff, I need to include all of them, and that was a real famous one and one that everybody used. You still hear that sometimes nowadays at a poker game and places like that, where they just say you and the mule you rode in on. I said, I can't do that. Can't do that in a video and go on. Sure can't do it with you guys present, because you just blurt it out, and I'd have to edit it out of the video anyway. But that kind of ended that. If I wasn't going to let them do what they wanted to, then they wasn't going to try to contribute anymore. And so we went on to something else. And what I want you to do is maybe make a comment about what you think about this little section, the first part of this video. And maybe you got old sayings like that, and I know I can come up with some more if I just sat around and thought about it. But enough of something's enough for one day. But if you got old sayings in your family history or in your growing up that you don't hear anymore, you might drop me a line or a comment and say, how about this one? And maybe we'll talk about it in the future. Seem like something that people might be interested in, or at least old people. This past week, and let's back up and let's say I'm going to talk about my neighbors. But in order to do that, we have to have a little discussion about neighbors, because neighbors could be all kinds of things. I live out in the country. So when you live out in the country, your neighbors might be right next to you, or they might be 2 miles down the road from you. You get out in the country, you got a different concept or understanding in your head about what neighbors are. And I say that as if that's it, because you're out in the country, and I can't even really do that anymore because times change things. And so there was a time when that was what I just said was true, but nowadays it can be true, but not necessarily true. And I'll illustrate that by saying I have a person lives 200-300 yards from me. They're my neighbors, but we're not neighborly. They've lived there. There's one house between us. They've lived there for, I don't know, a year or two. And I've never met them. I wouldn't know them if they walked through the door right now. I don't think I know what their name is. I have known, seen it on the mailbox, but I can't tell you right now what their name is. So being a neighbor is not quite as the same as it was 40 years ago when I moved on this road. When I moved on this road, of course, there wasn't as many of us on the road, but there was a lady right down the road. Her name was Miss Conley, and when you first moved in that first week, she was knocking on your door, telling you she was your neighbor, getting your name, getting a list, getting everything down, getting what your wife's maiden name was. When somebody died in your family, she wanted to make sure all the neighbors sent flowers. She took up the flower collection and sent. So she had to know everybody and everything about them right off the get-go. And that's kind of how country neighbors were. And still, it's not like that today. Now, in town, it's the same way. You used to have somebody on this side of your house, somebody on this side of your house, or if you lived in an apartment, somebody across the hall or somebody upstairs. Those your neighbors. And you knew them, and you knew about them. But I guess it's the same change in the country as it is in the city. You can live right next door to somebody or right across the hall from somebody, not know their name, not even know they lived there 4 months before you knew they had a husband in there that never come out. That kind of thing. But anyway, these people down the road, they're my neighbors. I consider them my neighbors. I talk to them. And that's funny too, because they live on a farm. And when I moved to where I lived 40-some years ago, their mom and dad lived on that farm. And these two girls, they're both ladies, about my age, they had already got married and moved off and had lives of their own, so I never knew them. I just knew their mom and dad that still lived there on the farm. In fact, I worked with their dad. I worked in the same General Motors plant that he did, and I knew him and talked to him, and the man was just a wonderful man. He's one of these guys that always had a smile just right behind his face there, just ready to come out. It just wanted out of there, and didn't take much to get it out of there. And it wasn't one of these big old what I call cheerleader smiles or take my picture smile. It was just a nice little soft, I'm glad I got to see you today, smile that fly. He's oh man, get out of here. Get out of here. Anyway, their dad was just that kind of a guy, and I had lots of conversations with him down there in the front yard or out by the barn in their place, or even out in the middle of the pasture standing there looking at a pond or something like that. I knew their dad, a fine gentleman. I knew their mother too. I knew her, and I knew what her name was. I think it was Mary. I'm pretty sure her name was Mary, but I never saw her without him, so it was easy to know her. You know, if you see them in town at the grocery store, they was together. And if I'd ever seen her without him, would I have known her well enough to speak to her? Probably not. But as far as I know, never did see them apart out away from the farm. So I could say I knew their mother too, but the one I really knew was their dad. And of course, they're both been gone a while now, and that farm just sit there all these years since I've been out here. And after both the old folks died, why, there wasn't nobody living on the farm, but them girls would come back to it some. Turns out one of them lived in Mississippi, and the other one lived up in northern Indiana, and the one who lived in Mississippi come here and spend the summer most years. And I stopped to meet her one day when I saw her down there and got to know her a little bit. And over the years, I got to know her a little bit more and a little bit more. Then I met her. Her sister was from Monticello, Indiana, and she'd come down, spend a week or two with her sister on the farm while she was there for the summer. And I met her a time or two. Didn't know her, couldn't always remember what her name was, and didn't know her nearly as well as the older sister, but still a couple of delightful ladies, fun to chit chat with, and share old time stories with, and so I liked them. I come by there a few weeks ago, and I seen both of them down there in the garage, and I stopped, and they was fixing to have a yard sale. What they'd done, they'd had some buildings that were roof had fallen in on one. Some of the others were needing attention, and they had stuff in them, and they're dragging stuff out that they could get out safely and accumulating there in the garage, and there's stuff in the house, and they was bringing it out. And so I helped them, talked about some of the stuff, what they might get for it, and just kind of checked in on them and told them I'd help them when they got ready to put an ad in the paper or advertise it. I'd help them get it on the internet and some stuff like that. And I told you all that to tell you this. The last day of the sale, actually I was down there, they had a sale last Friday and Saturday, and they had a good sale. I mean, why wouldn't they have a good sale? They had a garage full of stuff that had been drug out of outbuildings that nobody'd seen for 60, 70 years. I mean, when you can have a sale like that, you got people that's going to come and look whether they buy anything or not. That's just a fun kind of sale to be at. I went down there and got dirty 2 or 3 times. I got all sweaty and dirty and didn't even intend to. But anyway, I was down there Saturday afternoon, and I bought a few things from them. But the 2 most precious things that I got while I was at the sale, sitting back here behind me, and I didn't buy them. I was just down there in the yard looking at them on Friday, and they're the kind of things I like to buy sometimes, but there ain't no money in them because they're the kind of things usually go on the burn pile. But I was standing there looking at them, and the oldest sister, she recognized that I was looking at them, so she come over there. She started talking to me about them, and she told me that that was doll furniture, or children furniture is what it was. And I wouldn't have thought of it as that until she said that, and then I could see it. It was plain. But a primitive looking little shelf. Had a jillion nails in it. Some of them bent over, some of them bent, some of them not driven right, very good. And, I thought of my own experiences when I was a boy. In my grandfather Sam, he had a woodworking shop and a welding shop, and I'd go in that woodworking shop, and he'd allow me to dig around in that scrap box and get any kind of lumber out of it I wanted to. And I had tools over there that I could use, and then there was tools over there that I wasn't even to think about using. If I looked at them, he was going to be over there like a duck on a June bug and say, you ain't supposed to be bothering now. But I had permission to use certain tools. I had permission to get certain wood out of that scrap box, and I could build little things if I wanted to, and I just delighted in doing that. And these things reminded me of that, although she was either a little bit older than me or had a better imagination than me, because her stuff, I thought, better than the stuff I built. I built little boats and, simple little things. I built lots of boats, and then when I'd go to the river with my grandparents, I'd take my boat, put it in the river, and watch it float off, and it'd be gone. I had to make another one next time I was over there. But these were things that she built. She told me, I built those things out of the wood box. Dad let me, and she explained, and the rules she had was pretty much like the rules I had when I was a boy, and it just touched me that a little girl in a different place at a different time, but a very similar situation as mine when I was a little boy, had built these things. I'm going to show them to you. This first one here, just a little old bench, little old primitive, looks kind of like a primitive church pew. And I kind of marveled at it. She said she's about 8 years old. I think she's a little older than 8. I'm going to guess her 10 or 12 when she built this, because I know about when they moved to that farm, and I think she's a little older and she remembers when she built it. But she said 8 or 10. I'm going to say she's 10 or 12. And she built this little bench. And I was standing there thinking, how could I set Crocs on that or do something to make somebody want to buy it. But after she told me that story, I didn't so much want to sell it anymore. I was, instead of thinking about how can I buy that cheap enough to make some money for it, I was thinking about, I'd like to buy that, just keep it for that story she told me. And then the other thing is I'm not going to water it around here, but you can see what it is. It's a little, looks like a little cupboard. Got 2 shelves in it. 2 boards on either side, boards in the back. 2 little shelves, neither one of them straight. It don't stand up straight. It don't fit together good, but it's primitive looking. I like the heck out of it. And she gave it to me. And so, I don't know whether, I thought I might go pull some of them crooked nails out of it and maybe straighten it up a little bit, maybe do something to it, but I'm thinking I'm probably just going to scrub it down good, get the mud and the dirt off of it, and maybe type out a little story about those and where they come from and why I got them and why they didn't go on the burn pile. Maybe one of these days one of my kids will appreciate that I appreciated them, and they'll be sitting around somewhere for somebody to look at. I hope that story doesn't get lost. So, don't know what I can add to that. I thought about even making a name for them, like Sad Times Originals or something, but I decided that if that wasn't the epitome of a Hard Times original, even though I didn't have anything to do with it, if that wasn't what a Hard Times original was about, I don't know what else you could say about it. I don't know whether I'm going to call this the episode The Day of the Two Flies, the one that died and the one that didn't, or I'll just edit that fly out of all this video and go on about my business. However it turns out, subscribe to my channel. If you watched it all the way through and liked it, good. Share it with your friends, with your, whatever the people are called on Twitter or whatever them other things are besides Facebook that you're on. Just share it with them. Tell them you know this old guy that tells interesting stories, and see if you can't get them to watch some of my videos. Till the next time, I'm the Hard Times Guy.